Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Write for Your Life. I'm Caleb.
And I'm Timothy.
So, been just a couple of days since we recorded the last one. What have you been up to?
Had a very busy weekend. We played a large game of Blood on the Clock Tower, which I lost completely because of me. For any listeners who know what Blood on the Clock Tower is and some of the roles, I was the Raven Keeper. It was a 12-player game, and I immediately made everybody think I was the demon. So I was useless, and I'm probably the reason the good team lost.
Yeah, it kind of you kind of have to be alive for the Raven Keeper thing to work.
Yeah, and you have to be someone who the demon wants to kill as opposed to someone who the demon wants to keep alive because they make a great pin in the last three. So that's 12 straight losses for me.
Whoa, that is a rough losing streak.
So some of them like this one are my fault. My wife tells me that a lot of them aren't my fault. I don't know if I believe her, but this one definitely was. But it was still a blast. And the evil team also, like, even if I hadn't played poorly, I think the evil team would have won just because the demon played such a good game. Nobody ever suspected them until, like, near the end of the game. And even then, it was like, well, we know this person's evil. We don't know about these other people. On the last night, there were four people alive. There was both minions, and the demon, and an outsider. And the demon was the Fangu. Killed the outsider, who became the demon. Three evil players alive. You know, there you go. Bob's your uncle.
Insane.
How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. I spent a large chunk of Sunday night editing, and I mean a large chunk of Sunday night, trying to get a whole bunch of stuff set up for the backlog and for some social media things. But I did spend my Saturday at a theme park, which was really, really nice.
Excellent.
Yeah, I got to get out of town for a day, and that's good because I don't get out of town very often, usually unless it's for work. Doing non-work things is fun.
Are you one for the roller coasters?
I absolutely am. You are not so much, are you?
I would go so far as to say I detest, despise, and am completely terrified by them.
Which is mind-blowing considering how much you like to mountain bike.
Yeah, you'd think it would be related, but I can't do roller coasters. I did one roller coaster, and it was probably one of my least favorite experiences ever.
It's the heights thing, isn't it?
It's the heights and the movement and the lack of control.
Hmm.
Because like the one I went on, shoot, where was it? Somewhere in Ohio. Carowinds. It was at Carowinds. And if anybody's been to Carowinds, it's the roller coaster that's in the huge warehouse. So it's almost pitch black in there. So the heights ostensibly shouldn't be an issue because I didn't know that I was high up most of the time. I thought I'm probably high up, but it's not the same if you can't see it. But still, just the way a roller coaster moves, I don't like it. I need to be in control when that kind of movement is happening. Hence me enjoying mountain biking, but not roller coasters.
That makes sense. Well, for you, that is a nightmare. For me, it is a dream. And speaking of dreams, that is what we're going to be getting into this week.
Bravo, good sir, bravo.
I was going to bring it back around somehow. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, I'm excited about this one.
This one is My Dreams Are Not For Me. My dreams are not for me. My dreams have not been going well. In fact, they feel like they're turning into my fears. I would say my nightmares, but that would imply that I've seen them in my sleep. I haven't. My fears only manifest when I'm awake. My greatest fear is to put my all into something and it still not be enough. It is my fear because I've experienced it. Multiple times, actually. It happens so much that I would say failure and I are more than acquaintances. I actually know that something is almost over because I can see failure coming my way. No matter how much I try to succeed at things that I care about doing, success never finds me. I get glances of it in the midst of my struggle, but it is ever elusive. I usually get away with some progress made and some lessons learned. Those are good things that come from the effort and the trial, but those are my only rewards. The end goal of my pursuit is not my reward, it is someone else's. I wouldn't say failure laughs at me. I would say that it shows up at the end and sits down beside me and says, "We both knew it would come to this. It always does." In the past, I've tried to keep up the good habits and lessons from my pursuits. Those don't come without a cost, though. It usually means continue to work through the pain of failure. Right now, it hurts really bad. It actually is having such an impact on me that I don't even really want to write. I have so many ideas, but they all feel in vain. It is an effort to type into my keyboard when it usually isn't. I would say that it's like shouting into a void or a wall, but those can't hear. Feels like I'm being ignored, and that is much worse. I believe this is called the messy middle, where the happiness and hopefulness of the dream is gone, but the end is too far away to see it. The only thing I can see is failure walking my way again. It feels hopeless. My only thought is no matter how good I am, no matter how well I write, no matter what I do, it's just not going to be enough. Because my dreams are not for me, they are for someone else. I hope whoever ends up with them enjoys them as much as I enjoyed dreaming about them. So, what did you think?
This one it's much more of a downer than I think pretty much anything else we've listened to. Reading it and hearing you read it, both of those in I think slightly different ways, gave me the feeling that it was just kind of you talking. It's not even like the emotional train of thought that some of your poems have, where it's free form, you're weaving in metaphors and stuff like that. It just felt like you sitting down and writing this, but it feels a little more structured than one of your poems, which is interesting because I don't know if this was actually the case, but and the way you read it also made me feel this way, that it feels like something that you already know. You already understand all of what you're writing in your head. And now you're not expressing how you feel as much as you are explaining what's going on. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody other than me, but it makes it seem more deep because it's not just a way you're feeling, it's a way you're feeling and it's also a way you're thinking. And at the end of it, it almost just makes me want to ask, are you okay?
I'm very glad it evokes that feeling because that's the purpose, that's the point. If you ask people who know me very well, they will tell you that I don't particularly feel all that successful in just about anything. Mostly because of, well, you can sort of get it from the piece, is that sentiment of if it's something I'm genuinely trying to do, it just doesn't work. And that just feels like a statement of fact rather than me being like emotionally down. It feels like the way things are. Where it is, if I really care about something very deeply and very genuinely, and I'm giving my all to something, and I'm trying very, very hard to pursue a thing, it feels as if the outcome is predetermined. That there's just not a path to what I would deem as success. That path doesn't exist. It's not there. It's something I can try to find or create, whether through a large amount of effort or force, but it doesn't materialize. Not to say that there aren't other things that I do that are successful or that there are things that I'm good at, but they're not the things that I genuinely want to be good at.
Yeah. I think the middle section where you talk about failure not laughing at you, but coming and sitting next to you and saying, "We always knew it would come to this." That really gets that point across, where you're not in an emotional state there. It's like, "Oh, it's done. You've failed. You're sitting down." It's like, "Yeah, of course this would happen. why did you even try?
Failure only has one line. And when I was writing it and reading it, I wanted it to feel like a friend coming down and sitting beside you and just being like, you know, we always knew that this would happen, right? Like I didn't want it to be arrogant or smart aleck or anything like that because we are far too well acquainted to be putting on airs. To me, that makes it hurt more.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the bad news is so familiar. The bad news is the anticipated outcome.
Yeah, and it definitely gets the point across that this has happened many times before, and this is an old song and dance for you.
The feeling of seeing it in the distance and knowing like, okay, I have between now and then to try and do something. And it doesn't matter what I do between now and then because it doesn't stop him from coming. It doesn't stop failure from coming. But I can try to get everything out of this that I can because eventually I'll just run out of options. Eventually there will be no other path forward and it's just the end. And so I've tried everything that I can. I've done everything that I can. It wasn't from a lack of trying. It wasn't from a lack of planning. It wasn't from anything that it was within my control because I basically did everything that I could. But that's okay because it's over now.
It's interesting with that idea to juxtapose this writing with what we read last week once more, where the focus of that is you moving forward, focusing on the next thing, and not giving yourself a chance to think about, do I want to do this again? At first, when I read this, my instinct was to say, oh, these are kind of opposites. But after hearing you say all of that, it feels like they go hand in hand very well.
Explain more.
You were saying that, you have kind of this limited time until failure comes. You got to do as much as you can in the interim. And so I was thinking about once more, and the whole point of that being you don't look way into the future. You don't ask how many more times am I going to do this. You just do it the next time. And do you think that is do you think that man, I cannot explain this.
If you can't explain it elegantly, explain it simply, and it will often be more elegant than you think.
Okay. Is that something that is opposite to knowing that failure's coming and trying to get everything that you want out of it? Or is that the way that you try and get everything out of it before you feel like failure comes?
I think it's the way that you try to get the most out of it. And that's part of the reason why I don't look forward, because oftentimes I don't see anything forward except for the end. So that is part of keeping your head down. And it is very interesting that we're doing this one directly after that one, because you can go once more and once more and once more and once more, but there does come a point where it is over. There does come a point where the final whistle blows. There does come a point where you're just out of options and you're out of time and you're just out of everything. And it is a noble pursuit to know that it is not going to end well, but to do it anyway.
Do you think that's more of a good mindset or a realistic mindset, or neither? I guess what I'm asking is this the way you feel, or do you think that this is a creative tool for you as well?
I would like to say that it isn't the way that I feel, but I don't have any experience to tell me the contrary. And that's a really depressing statement for me to say.
Yeah.
And it's also a very sad thing for me to feel.
Yeah.
And I think it's why I try to do so many things. Because in the back of my mind, it's sort of me hoping that this is the one. This is it. This is the time that it's going to happen. This is the time where I'm going to put a plan together and I'm going to execute it to the best of my ability. And I'm going to make the needed changes and take the necessary steps. And this time I'm going to get a different outcome. But that doesn't tend to happen. I also want to make something clear here. I have lots of wonderful friends. I have a wonderful family. I have a wonderful wife. I have lots of very amazing and beautiful people in my life who I lean on very deeply and talk with and engage with. I mean, Tim is a very dear friend of mine. This speaks nothing of my personal relationships with people. I find myself very rich in friends. So this is not about any of that. This is about my pursuits and my dreams to accomplish something, to accomplish a goal set out before me. So I don't want to conflate those two things. I don't want to say, like, woe is me, my life is sad, everything's bad, everything's awful, because that's not true. But what tends to be true for me is that when I try to do something or accomplish something, I don't get it done. And if you were to ask anyone, I tend to do better than people think that I would do and get farther than people think that I would get, but I don't get to the end goal. And I know that the life philosophy is the journey, not the destination. But if you never get to the destination, the purpose of the journey was not met.
Yeah.
If the purpose of the journey is to get to the destination, because that's why you go on the journey. You go on the journey to get to the destination.
Yeah. Yeah. A journey without a destination is just wandering. It has some merit, but it's not the same thing.
Right. Particularly when your goal is to get to the destination.
Mm-hmm.
And it often feels like swimming from the coast of California to Hawaii and then giving out 10 miles before you're there. Where you're so close. You're so very, very close. You've come such a long way and you've gotten very far and you did something very noble. But you're 10 miles away and everything finally gives out. And then you would wake up back on the coast of California.
I think the obvious question from that is, why do you keep trying? And that's not a try, oh, you should just give up. But what is your continued motivation, even though you always have this essentially inevitable sense of failure?
Two things. Number one, to stop trying would be to give up. And I am nothing if not absolutely dogged in my pursuits.
Yeah.
And that's when you stop living and you resign yourself to just existing. It's to forgo all dreams that you've had and simply to say that there are no more dreams to be dreamt and there are no more paths to go down. And my dreams are not for me. All of my previous dreams, someone else is getting to live. And I'm very happy for them. But it simply means that I must continue to dream again. And the second reason why I keep trying is I have another writing on this that we'll discuss at a later date. But there's some small part of me that believes that the next time is going to be it. Maybe my next submission, maybe the next episode, maybe the next post, maybe the next writing, maybe the next thing. This thing wasn't it, but maybe the next thing will be. There's only one way to find out.
So you've chosen to continue and to keep doing this despite feeling like you always know the outcome. And that's a conscious choice, and that's what you want because it gives your life purpose in a way, I guess. Or is that stating it too strong?
I think life has many purposes, and to boil most things down into one purpose would be foolishness. And even if you are to boil everything down into there is one single sole purpose in life, that can look a million different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So to give up would be to devoid my life of meaning. One thing that's very interesting is Jimmy Valvano, who was the coach of the 1985 NC State Wolfpack. It's 85 or 86. The NC State Wolfpack that won the championship. He was diagnosed with cancer at some point, hence the Jimmy V Foundation. If you're a sports person, you probably know lots of this. But he gives a speech that one of the key lines in it is, if you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a heck of a day. And the way that he says cry is to have your emotions moved to tears. That could be in a good way or a bad way, but to laugh, think, and cry is to fully live the spectrum of being. And to rob oneself of anything that can make one cry, such as trying really hard at something and failing, is partially to devoid yourself of the human experience.
Yeah. And on a very similar note, to not even try to create at all, regardless of how it makes you feel. I mean, creation is one of the key things that essentially sets us apart from everything else on the earth. We have the ability to create. It's part of what makes us human. And if you don't participate in that, you're robbing yourself of part of the experience of life, part of what allows us to be human and more than the animals.
And if this podcast convinces you of nothing else, if the only thing that you walk away with is, I should try to create something, even if that thing doesn't turn out well, or if it turns out amazingly well, then we have done our jobs.
Yeah.
The more that we do this, I think the title Write for Your Life is rather unfortunate because I feel like it paints a box where we talk specifically about writing, but we are more so challenging you to be creative in any format that takes.
As an example of that, my little sister, I'm kind of talking about writing here, but my little sister, she loves stories, and she loves reading fantasy books, and she likes thinking about situations that aren't in the book that the characters could get into. And sometimes she'll write these down, but a lot of time it's just in her head. And she'll tell me about them. She'll tell other people about them. She'll write down drafts and stuff like that. And oftentimes she will put a pen to paper. But even if it's just in her head, and even if it's for nobody else, that is still creating something. And that is still really beautiful.
Agreed. We did talk about it last week or 2 weeks ago. It gets really confusing when you record one of these on a Friday and one of these on a Monday, and you publish one on a Wednesday, and you recorded the one the Monday before that. So if I say the previous episode or 2 previous episodes, and you're like, that was 3 weeks ago, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's all a blur.
Yeah, it's a blur. We did talk about that, you don't have to create something for a purpose of anything other than you simply wish to create something and have it. I think that's a really beautiful example of that. Of even if you're just creating this thing in your mind, still creation of some sort.
Yeah. And I guess to put a little bit of hope, I guess we've already put some hope into it, but to really lean into that message, despite the feelings and the sense that you have, and likely a lot of other people have, about kind of this inevitable sense of failure that's coming at the end of any creative endeavor. Creating something, even if it may not be the destination you had in mind, it is still a worthy result of what you're doing. And it's not meaningless.
I agree. It may not be the meaning that you wanted. It may not be the lesson that you wanted to learn. But it is something. And to not learn from it, and to just throw it away and count it as 100% loss, that is failure. Shall we turn our eyes and our mind to something a little bit happier?
Yeah.
Good. We better do that now because I'm about to talk about something sad when what's inspiring me this week. So
don't worry, I'll juxtapose it with another amusing book I'm reading. So we're gonna give the readers thinking, crying, and laughing. It's gonna be the whole experience of the day right here.
Is someone reading the transcript? You said we're going to give the reader something to think and laugh and cry about, so...
I mean, we could do a transcript. Spotify does have the automatic subtitles, and they're accurate 70% of the time.
I mean, hey, if you're reading this podcast and not listening to this podcast, kudos. Good for you.
It's the people who don't have any access to technology, and they get a friend print out the transcript and mail it to them via the post office.
If you're printing out a transcript of this podcast, please send us a copy. That would be lovely.
I will frame it on my wall, as long as they sign it.
As you say, as long as they sign it?
Yeah, because then it just looks like I have a super big ego, which I don't want people to think. I mean, obviously I do, but I don't want to showcase that.
We're 2 guys creating a podcast. We have to have at least somewhat of an ego. So, what have you been working on?
Oh, goodness. Okay. So last episode, I think, and again, blurs together, but I think last episode we were talking about writing dialogue and how I was struggling with this one particular scene. And Caleb gave some very good advice. And as a little bit of a backhanded compliment, I didn't do what you said, but it really helped. I was thinking about, okay, who am I kind of modeling this character after in my head? Because my problem was the female character. Because the male character, I've written parts for him before, and I kind of know what he's coming into this conversation thinking. But I hadn't fully figured out how she was acting at the beginning. And I reread through it, and I tried to read it from the perspective of just someone who was picking up the book. And I found that I did not like her. I did not like who she was as a person immediately when she was introduced. And so I was thinking about, okay, who would I want this person to feel like? And I didn't ever arrive on a specific person, unfortunately. But it did give me an idea of, oh, this is how these couple people might react in this scenario. Because she ends up being a lot closer to my dance instructor than anybody else, funnily enough. So I tried to write her in a way that she felt like how my dance instructor might feel in a similar scenario. Because she's a waitress, and this customer, and from her perspective, she's a waitress, and this customer is like, oh, you look, you look beautiful, blah, 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 whatever. And she's like trying to get the tip. So he's like, oh, thank you. Treating him nicely, but still kind of shutting it down. But then over the course of the conversation, he shows more personality and more character and more integrity and stuff than other people who would be flirting with her at the restaurant. And, so I have to write that storyline. And so I had to make her feel more likable coming in, because you have to root for the main character, like, oh, you want him to connect with this girl. And if she's not a likable person, then you don't want him to succeed there. And that was the problem I was running into, and the conversation was just going nowhere. So that's a very long-winded way of saying I did what you said, kind of, and it worked really well, and I was able to write a couple more pages of dialogue. I had to end up doing other things afterwards, so I got cut short, but I was able to get on a roll, and I think I'm going to be able to finish out that chapter without too much more problems.
That's amazing. It becomes so much easier when you know the personality and type that you're writing for, and having a person in mind makes that exponentially easier.
Yeah. Even if just for the introduction, because I think she's going to act very differently near the end of this scene. But at the beginning, it was, oh, here's a story my dance teacher told me about something that she did, 5 or 10 years ago. I was like, oh, okay, this is exactly how this person would act in the same situation. So I'm just going to copy paste and boom, there we go.
It's very beautiful to be able to do that and then take creative liberties with it and exaggerate and expound and make it your own, but have that sort of solid foundation there.
It is very good advice. So if anybody's struggling with the same thing, listen to Caleb. He has good words of wisdom.
You can't see it, but I'm pointing at you right now. You, the listener.
You specifically, not the other one. You.
Yes, you. Yeah, you. Yeah, I know. You're making eye contact with me. Yes, you. I'll get to everyone else later.
What have you been working on?
I said a little bit up at the top, but some social media adjacent things for the podcast. I didn't have as much time between the last episode that we recorded, which was Friday, and this episode, which is Monday, because I spent all of the Saturday out of town. So I did not have access to any of my materials. So I spent a significant amount of time editing and trying to create other ways to deliver more goodness. But that is a secret for now until things actually get out in the open. So I would love for us to be able to do a couple of additional types of content, but right now that requires us, again, creating a backlog, getting ahead of schedule, having time, making time to do the things that we would like to do.
Yeah. Once we get through the recordings that will, I guess once we get through the recordings that are going to be posted through July, then life becomes a lot easier. We can try to record once a week, and that gives us a lot more time to get back to doing the other things we really want to do with our time there.
Mm-hmm. And I've already got a few more ideas of how we can have a schedule and a cadence that can be beneficial. Getting more things. I'm so sorry. I sound super vague. I am 100% being vague on purpose. So I have to use words like things and stuff and items and goodness. And
Nom noms for the masses.
I've pulled out my thesaurus and am just working through words right now. But that's what I've been working on, and people will get to, I guess, experience it shortly adjacent.
Well, I am appreciative of you doing a lot of that work, because A, I'm very bad at it, and B, it's you taking that upon yourself has continued to give me a little more time to create, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd like to try to get in a few submissions over the course of the next week to be able to make some book progress updates. But also, I think it's okay that more of my updates have been about this creative process and sort of letting everyone have a peek behind the curtain or just sort of open access to what goes into something like this and what goes into doing the things that we would like to do with this. Because as this keeps going on, said it earlier, this becomes more about creation and various forms of it than it is explicitly about writing. Now, obviously, we're always going to be talking about writing because it's the thing that I love to do and it's the thing that Tim loves to do as well.
Yeah, but I mean, to bring it back around to what we talked about earlier, all this applies to any sort of creative endeavor. And a podcast, as much as there is, technical audio jargon we have to learn and other things we have to do and, all of this logistical stuff and everything, it's still a creative endeavor.
Agreed. For what's keeping us inspired this week, I want to go first because it's going to be sad again.
Yes, by all means. I'll prepare my tissues.
I guess it'll be more depressing than it is sad, maybe. I don't know. I guess it's not for me to decide. That's for you to decide. The listener. Yes, I'm still talking to you.
And the one reader that appreciates my shout out.
Yes, the one reader and the listeners. If you're watching this podcast, I don't know how. Please stop staring through my window. So, what I want to talk about this week is actually some music. I want to specifically talk about Cameron Whitcomb. He is someone that I have been listening to more and more over the past year-ish or so. And I want to talk about the song Options. It is essentially him talking about, I think, alcohol addiction in this case. And a couple of lines that I really love in here. Firstly is the chorus where he says, "I won't, but I could pull that bottle off that shelf. It helps me cope knowing I could be that version of myself." I really like that line because it reminds me of, I don't know, certain situations where you're like, I could do the thing that I used to do here, but I'm simply going to not. And there being at least a little bit of satisfaction in knowing that you're trying to make the better choice and you are doing the better choice, but also knowing that that other option is still out there, not pretending like it doesn't exist, not pretending like you've never done it before, but simply choosing to not do it. And another one is, "I can hear that quiet knock. I open up the door. I could have sworn I triple locked."
Mm-hmm.
Where you kind of juxtapose to the last statement, which is, I'm feeling good about not doing the thing that I previously used to do, but it's also getting very, very close to it, right? Saying I'm never going to go that way again. And this thing that you thought you've shut off, you're kind of now standing there face to face in front of it again.
Yes, it's kind of that feeling of you get some of the same satisfaction from avoiding the thing as you do from succumbing to it. It's not exactly the same. It's not the same level, but you get that. But at the same time, knowing that you could be that person again, makes it accessible, which is dangerous.
Yeah, and later, right after he talks about it, right, opening up this door, he says, would I still survive it or have I lost my edge? You're never quite alive as when you're shaking hands with death. Would I still
Mhm.
remember how to lose my mind? Well, I might just give it a try. So it's that further contemplation of sort of going back to this old thing. And then it kicks off into the chorus again, which is, I won't, but I could. So, and that's why the song is called Options, right?
Hmm.
You could do this thing, and the statement later saying of as long as hell hasn't frozen over, I still have options. Again, bring it back around to this bad thing is still out there, and it's essentially always going to be out there. So I always have the option to do the wrong thing, but I'm not going to. And just that feeling of that pulling back and forth of trying to do the right thing, but being tempted by this other bad, awful thing that is out there that is very alluring and attractive. So, unfortunately, and fortunately, you have options.
Yeah.
And I think that inspires me because it sort of goes back to the reading last week and the reading this week. You sort of have two options. You can give up, call it a day, or you can try again and you can continue to pursue.
Yeah, and knowing that you could just give up and be that person and let yourself just live life as a spectator, essentially. That can be very, very attractive sometimes. But then there's the other option where you can do that and you don't. And despite everything, despite how much easier it would be not to, you just go once more.
And even when failure is sitting beside you and saying, we always knew it would come to this, and you can agree and say, for this thing I have failed, but I shall do the next thing. Because being optimistic to me isn't about saying that this particular pursuit isn't failed or that it's over, but the optimism is I can get up and I can try something else. I can try something different. I can try something more.
Well, and connecting that even more to what we talked about last week. This is a wild connection. So you suggested last meals last week, and
I did.
I watched the episode with Sam Reich, and I know he said it other places as well. One of the things he said on that episode was how creativity and art is inherently ridiculously optimistic because you're
Yep.
making this thing that does not serve a pragmatic purpose. It's not going to protect you from the elements. It's not going to feed you. It's not going to give you retirement funds or anything like that. And yet we create anyway. And, what we've talked about today is creating in the face of what feels like inevitable failure. And that too is ridiculously optimistic. As in, it's absurd. Why would we do that? It doesn't make logical sense, and yet we keep doing it because it's part of what makes life actually worth living.
To feel like you can spit in the faces of the gods of the earth brings this sort of beauty and hope and ridiculousness to the human existence.
Yeah.
We don't do previews anymore because it takes way too much time for me to do that as well as edit and everything else. But if we did, this episode would have some absolute bangers.
Chocked full. Well, and I've been saving some audio clips for various purposes, so you might hear these again. We'll see. Yes, speaking of absurd ridiculousness, and that's the only thing that's going to tie it in, I have been reading a Terry Pratchett book recently. It is Guards. I want to say it's the first book in the City Watch series. It might be the second one. My Terry Pratchett chronology is not as accurate as it could be. Guards is... I actually don't know what it's about yet, because I don't read the backs of books normally. If I know I want to read them, I'm just going to go in blind. So I don't know exactly what it's about. I know that it's going to have presumably a dragon in it of some kind, and I know that it's going to deal with City Watch, which is essentially the worst police force you could ever imagine in the city of Ankh-Morpork.
Is it because they're evil, or is it because they're bad in the sense that they're bad people, or is it the sense that they're bad because they're just like really bad at their jobs?
There is a mix, as far as I can tell. There's also there's some good apples in there, but The character who's been showcased so far in the book, the only thing he has done is lie drunk in a gutter, and a lot of stuff has happened. So that's the picture of the police force currently. But there is a fresh young recruit who may change that. We'll see. Anyway, not to give too many spoilers, but the reason I really wanted to talk about this one, partially to end on a hopefully amusing note. This book doesn't have chapters, so it just kind of flows, and it's jumping between characters a lot. One of the characters it jumps between at the very beginning, so this isn't really much of a spoiler, is there's this fellow who is he's carrying this parcel, and it's raining and it's dark, and he's in like a kind of a slightly seedy part of the city, and he goes up to this door, and he knocks, and the little eye shutter slides open, and the guy asks for the passcode, and so they start trading passcodes back and forth. And then at one point they get stuck on this one particular word, and the guy who's outside thought he said it one way, the guys who's inside thought he said the other way. And then they realize that they've gone through about 8 passcodes, but this 9th passcode, he said a different word than the guy inside wanted him to, meaning he should be at the secret society that's about 2 doors down and not this one. It's the wrong secret society. So then the guy goes down to the next one, proceeds to say all the passcodes again in a very hurried manner. And all of this is purely dialogue. Like, there's a couple descriptions here and there, but you get so much from just the way the dialogue is written. And so he gets into the secret society, and it's just I won't spoil that part because that does get into plot stuff, but just the absolute absurdity of the world that Terry Pratchett has built, combined with the fact that in the story, I 100% accept that all of this is actually happening. It's truly magnificent. It is something that I really want to aspire to. I don't know if I ever want to go that ridiculous, but something that I love about Terry Pratchett's writing and P.G. Woodhouse's writing that I also want to emulate is the way that they highlight the absurdity of life in such a way that you laugh at what the characters are doing, but then it leaves you thinking, oh, life is kind of silly. I've done similar things before. Not exactly in the same way, but it allows me to look at a lot of things in life in a very different light, typically an amusing light, which allows me to laugh at them, which allows me to deal with them, essentially. You mentioned last week about how horror and comedy are very close cousins. And I think this is another way in which they are, because with horror, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but with horror, a lot of the point is you're showing, the terrible possibilities that could be. And then with comedy, you're essentially laughing at those terrible possibilities. It's just very interesting, and it's fascinating, and I really want my writing to exude similar feelings and thoughts in people, because I think it's just such a delightful way to see the world.
I think that's very beautiful. Yeah, horror and comedy both play in that realm of absurdism, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like the ridiculousness, right? We talked about that. It is hopefully optimistic and ridiculously absurd, and these other things where you can sort of put both them together. Even in horror, right? Like, to think that you would survive such a thing is ridiculously optimistic.
Yeah. And both of them, interestingly enough, generally end in hope.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's good to end on a hopeful note. Plug stuff part of the pod.
With the usually yes. It's always good to have that caveat.
Yeah, usually, not always.
Yeah.
If you wish to get in contact with us, ctwriteforyourlife@gmail.com. As always, subscribe to my Substack, cparkgreen.substack.com, to get a sneak peek of all the stuff that is coming in the future on this podcast. Most likely, we probably won't get to everything that I've ever written. Then, what else? Socials. We have socials by this point. Definitely, absolutely, 100%. I was actually actively working on them. Hopefully, it should be soon that you will see them in the wild. Or, well, actually, by the time this episode comes out, you will have already have seen them in the wild, so it should date this a little bit. As always, leave comments and reviews and likes and shares and subscribes and all of the other various forms of engagement. It goes a long way.
Yep. And looking at the calendar, I think that the weekend after this airs is 4th of July weekend. So if you're in the U.S., have a great time. Don't blow off any fingers, or at least not too many. Don't light anything on fire.
Oh, please don't light anything on fire. They get really mad. And by they, I mean literally everyone. Don't ruin the night for everybody. Don't set things on fire. Blow things up like a true American.
A Tannerite and a 45.
Oh, man. Oh, we both know people who've done that. Oh, goodness. And with that, keep writing, keep listening, keep being inspired.